Okay, so we last week we touched on that point about the animal soul and the godly soul. Always trying to make sure the godly soul is in the driver's seat as we move forward in life. Now in the preface, where he's now referring to the Sefiros, talking about the Sefiros. Now, for those of us who have been part of this class for the past couple of months, we spent quite a long time through Rabbi Ari Kaplan's inner space going through the various Sefiros and talking about what they are and what they're not. So this is quite good, A, Chazara, it's a good little revision, and B, he kind of uses different language, which I think could be helpful to make it a little bit clearer, more simple, more applicable potentially as well. So let's see the connection between the Sefiros and the self. Gav, go for it. Yeah, Gav said he'd like to read, so go for it. Yeah, of course, Gav, you can.
Which page are we coming from? Are we going from the language of the animal soul?
XXI. It says the connection between the Sefiros and the self. Page XXI. You got it, bro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. The Sefiros are referred to throughout Kabbalistic literature. They are first to be found in Sefer Yetzirah, the Kabbalistic work that is generally attributed to Avraham Avinu. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai in Tikkunei Zohar writes, Eliyahu opened his discourse and said, Master of the worlds, you are one. You are he who has brought forth 10 garments, and we call them 10 Sefiros, through which to direct hidden worlds and revealed worlds. Why are Sefiros godly attributes necessary to create and sustain worlds?
Okay, so I don't know how many of you came across the word. Oh gosh, Naomi said okay, fine. I don't know how many of you came across the word Sefirot. I don't know at what age or what stage in your Jewish journey you came across the word Sefirot. Now, for me, growing up at going to Emmanuel College, whatever, I never really heard these words till I was like 18, heading off to Israel. It wasn't something we were taught at a younger age. But we are understanding that this is the technology of Judaism, so to speak. When we start talking about the technology of creation, the technology of godliness, so to speak, the Sefiros are the elements that are going to essentially allow an infinite creator to build a finite world. And these things called the Sefiros are the elements, the powers that are going to do that for us. And so it's kind of it's important for us to try as much as possible to understand what this means. I think, for most of us, if you would ask, you're at the water cooler, I'm sure Sarah Jones has always been worried this might happen to her, that Sarah Jones at the water cooler at work, and someone comes up to her and says, hi Sarah, I see you like Judaism and Kabbalah. Can you explain to me, what are these Sefirot? And you'd be like, now you'll be able to answer because you've done this class, right? It's kind of hard. You need to be able to kind of try and explain what Sefiros are in a simple way. Let's read on because this is really helpful. Welcome, Noémie, bonjour et bienvenue. Et aussi un grand bonjour à David Turon Web. Okay, carry on, Gav.
Bonjour.
Wonderful to have you here. Let's go, Gabriel. Yalla, Habib. Gav, carry on.
Cool. A bridge between the infinite and finite. Since God is infinite and chose to create a finite world, he required a system to connect infinite and finite. His infinite light, the Ora Ein Sof, would be too overwhelming for created beings, and the world could not exist as a separate entity in the face of such divine revelation.
Pause there. That's clear from what we learned, okay? And those who didn't, you just have to speed up. But okay, infinite God, he has to be able to step down. It's like that electricity. It's like the source of electricity is too powerful. If you pumped into your home, it would just explode every device. So that's these step-down converters that take it from the electricity power plant to your computer, to your fan, your fridge, your freezer. It has to step down. It's an analogy, obviously, because Hashem is an infinite power source as opposed to Battersea Power Station, which is now, of course, an art gallery. Carry on. Gav, you're reading.
Furthermore, thank you, Rabbi. Furthermore, creation by means of an infinite light would... I just closed it.
All right. Would have resulted
in an infinite series of universes as opposed to the limited world that God desired. By clothing his light with divine attributes, Sefiros, within divine attributes, Sefirot, and revealing himself in a diminished format, the finite world could exist. Thus, the Sefirot limit the infinite quality of God's light and express a contained aspect of his power.
Okay, so this is the kind of dichotomy. On the one hand, the spheres are the limiting factors. They limit the light, but that's so from Hashem's perspective, like the Magen David, right? So coming down, the triangle coming down, the spheres limit God's light. Yeah, limit. But from our perspective down here, the more limited, the more we can actually live and be and exist, right? Because if we lived in an area where there was too much light, we couldn't see anything. You know, you can imagine if I took a light here, actually I've got a light here, for example, and I put the light right next to my face, you can't, it's not the best example, it's not such a good light, but again, if this was like a billion power kind of like light source, like, and I piled it on top of me, yeah, you can bet you can't see my eyes right now, right? Am I right in saying that, Ollie? Right, you can't see anything because the light's too strong. I'm here, but the light's too strong, you can't see anything. So step down. You can see me. I'm further away from the light, but you can see me now. That's why, by the way, you should know in Talmudic language, the word for a blind person, anybody know how they refer to someone who's blind in the Talmud? That's right, Serena. Serena just wrote me on a PM pro message. Thank you, Serena, for writing this. The answer is very correct, Serena, is saginahar. Saginahar in Aramaic means too much light. A blind person is referred to someone who's got too much light. There's too much light there, therefore they can't see. So the whole purpose of tzimtzum, the whole purpose of constriction is to take the light away, so you can see. So from our perspective, we can live, we can breathe, we can exist. But from God's perspective, it's the most constricted part of his I guess his being. Is that clear with everyone? Makes sense, right? Nothing here which is too rocky sciencey. Okay, I think you read beautifully, Gav, and I want to just tell you that was a real pleasure to hear you speak to read. Let's carry on a relationship with God. Sarah, are you up for reading a little bit? Would you rather like someone else read? We'd love to have you read if you. It's been so long since you joined us. It says a relationship with God.
Yeah, of course I can. A relationship with God. The need for Sefiros is also based on the premise that God desires a relationship with human beings, where God to create the world by means of infinite light, man would have no conception of his creator, and he has no grasp of the infinite. By forming the world using limited tools, Sefiros, humanity is allowed a glimpse of the hand of God, which is vitalizing creation. This can be compared to a great scholar who expresses lofty concepts within simple parables. The word Sefiros has a number of meanings. Two of the most commonly noted interpretations are sapphire or sapphire, connoting luminosity, and to lesapa, to tell or relate. Thus, the Sefiros can be understood as vehicles through which God reveals his light and luminosity to the world in a manner that they can relate to.
Beautiful. Okay, so this is after we've been through such an amazing journey with inner space. This is almost like crystallizing it into much more simple terms. But I think we have to go through the inner space journey to understand this. You know, sapphire is a sapphire. You know, when you go to the shops and want to buy something nice, you know, you want to get a nice sapphire, you know, necklace or a sapphire earring. So sapphire is the word for sapphire. You could, by the way, of course, you see the root, right? Where does the word sapphire come from? From the word sapphire, from Hebrew. It's a Hebrew word. Okay, and same time, sapphire means to tell over. Sapphire is a sefer in Hebrew is a book, right? A sefer is what you tell the sipur, the story in the sefer. So the sfirot both mean telling a story and also luminosity. So through these sfirot, Hashem, these step-down converters, Hashem is able therefore to allow his light to constrict and to glow in certain areas, and at the same time, we are able to understand in our limited way a little bit about who Hashem is and how the world was created. Okay, let's move on. So the Sefiros system. Any questions till now? No? Okay, it's good. It's just, like I say, it's quite nice because he's quite clear, it's quite fluid. We're just going to get through it. Let's go. Sefiros system. Do you want to read a little bit more on Robertson, Sarah? Are there cats meowing in the background there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's why I kept stopping.
It's cool. It reminds me of nature. It reminds me of being outdoors, you know?
Cat lady. The Sefiros system. The first expression of the Sefiros system is the godly will to create man and the awareness of the pleasure inherent in doing so. Will and pleasure, known as ratzon and tanug, represent a very general desire that is removed from the practicality of creation. In order to convert the broad desire into a practical creation, it must evolve into a systemized process. The 10 Sephirots are the process which transforms God's desire into an actuality. They are Chokhmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus.
Okay, pause there. Excellent reading, Sarah. Just two things. Firstly, he's obviously using the Ashkenazi pronunciation, so you can use whatever you want if you prefer using Ashkenazi or Sephardi. Obviously, he's an Ashkenazi person, so he's using the Ashkenazi pronunciation. That's why he says Malchus, Das. Okay, it's so confusing. Why couldn't Hashem just made it easy? Just like we all speak the same, say the same, pronunciations. It's very confusing, isn't it? Someone's talking about darts. Then was das. What are you talking about? Das and darts. I once came up with a beautiful chiddush. You'll like this, maybe you might enjoy this. Is that the whole thing comes from the letter taf or saf in the Hebrew alphabet, the last letter of the alphabet, because it's one of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet that sometimes it comes with a dot in the middle and sometimes it doesn't. So the idea means is if you sometimes have a dot and sometimes you don't have a dot, it means there's two pronunciations. And that's why the Yemenites, who apparently Yemenites have the oldest Masorah, the oldest tradition of what ancient Hebrew actually sounded like. Because if you remember, the Yemenite Jews, they take their lineage back to the Jews that were exiled, even before the exile of the first temple. So they go back, they're one of the most ancient Jewish communities in the world with the Yemenite Jews, and they stayed isolated for basically 2 millennia until the 1900s when they left. They have two different ways of pronouncing that taf. They call it either it's a ta with the dot or a th. They do it th, thora. They do a th sound, right? So we already know for sure there's two different ways of pronouncing the tet. It's either a ta or a th. And the German Ashkenazi, they also have a difference between it. So they do a t and a s, not a th, a s. That's why you say good Shabbos, not good Shabbat or Shabbat Shalom, because they see that when it's not got a dot on it, it's a s sound. So it's quite fascinating. But Moroccan and also Iraqi, they don't have any differentiation between the two. It's always a t sound. And that's why in modern Hebrew and Ivrit, they don't make a differentiation. That's why in modern Hebrew, it's always going to be Shabbat. It's never going to be Shabbos. But you might get a Yemenite will say Shabbat, and you'll get an Ashkenazi will say Shabbos. It's so confusing. Why does it have to be so confusing? But you know what's so funny? That I thought about this. The one place where I saw is in Birkat Kohanim, the blessing of the priests, which is a blessing for prayer. I noticed this. It's my chiddush. Okay, is that there's no taf or saf, whatever you say, in the whole of the priestly blessing. So the one area where you're giving a bracha of peace, there's no differentiation. Like if you Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Taimani, it's Yivarechecha Hashem v'Yishmerecha Ya Hashem panav elecha v'yifnecha Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'Hasem lecha shalom. There's not one taf or saf in there. So I like that. It's nice to share with you. Okay, fine. So, but what he says here, notice for those who were with us in inner space, he's not talking about Keter. Do you remember Keter or Keser? We discussed Keser. Keser. Now, in the whole flow of Sefiros, we discussed this. I don't have on me now the drawings that I made, but if you remember, there's discussion about Keser and Das, about how sometimes the 10 Sefirot are presented when Keser is there, Das doesn't exist, so it'll be Keser, Chokhmah, Bina. But when Keser isn't there, Das exists, and then you have Chokhmah, Bina, Das. There was a lot of discussion about this previously. I don't want to get into it again right now, but just to say this is going more according to the Chabad perspective, where it focuses more on Das. And therefore, that's why he's saying here, Keser is the will and desire. the Tanog and the Ratzon, the will and desire of Hashem, exists more in the will of Keser. Like we talked about, if you remember, I'll give an analogy that Keser is almost like that will and desire that a person has to do something, to attain something. Now it breaks down into the Chokhmah, the kind of the concepts. The Bina is going to be the actual process, how you're going to do it, and the Das is going to be the plan you've got. Then you've got Chesed, all the different, all the different areas, Chesed, Gvura, until finally you have Malchus, which is the actual expression. We use an analogy for this. You have a person who's a film director or a theater director. So Keser, or what he calls here Ratzon and Tanug, is going to be this suddenly. The film director or the theater director wakes up in the morning, is like, I'm putting on a show. I'm going to put on a show. I know I have to put on a show. That's like the element of Ratzon and Tanug. I'm putting on a show. I need to put on a show. I need to put on this show, right? It's going to be the most amazing show ever. And you know what it looks like in your mind's eye, that spark of like this will and desire. You know what it's going to look like, this show. Now, Chokhmah is going to be what's the show going to be about, right? I've got this idea. It's going to be a show about, I don't know, a young boy who gets kind of snapped up to become prime minister of an African country, and the whole story about how he goes back to Brooklyn to find his wife and coming to America. Okay, but that's the Chokhmah bit, right? Now, Bina would now be unpacking that. Okay, well, what kind of actors we're going to have? Where's it going to be set? What kind of time period will it be? And that's the Bina part. And then you go through Chesed Gvura. We have to find the actors. We have to write the script. We have to find the venue. We have to now, and then in the lower levels, you've got of Netzach Chod Yesod. You've got, okay, we have to book the theater. We have to get the tickets. We have to get the audience. We have to get the marketing. We have to get the whole thing. And then finally, Malchus is the first night where actually everyone's sitting in the audience, the actors are on the stage, and the production's going. Does everyone still understand this analogy? Okay, this is the kind of analogy I came to in the summer. This idea, so Ratzon and Tanog is like that initial spark. I'm putting on a show. I have a desire and a will to put on the show. Now, in this book, he's not dealing with Keser. He's taking Keser out of the picture. Ratzon and Tanug, this desire and will, is not where we're going. Rather, he's using the structure of Chokhmah, Bina, and Das. He's bringing Das into it, which we'll see. So I just wanted to kind of preamble that. You'll see what I mean as we go through this, but he really starts with Chokhmah, Bina, and Das, and takes out the Ratzon and Tanog out of the picture for the moment. Okay, we'll put that to the side. So that's why, if those you might say, but Rabbi Dov, where's Keter? We talked about Keter all summer. So he's not dealing with Keter, he's starting below Keter. Okay, so let's go on. The process begins. I'd like, can we have maybe someone different read? Someone new? Any new members? Noemi, very carefully, just switch the video very fast. Amanda, would you like to read for us as being a new member? A new member? No, okay, fine. So let's go to Auntie Emily, great Aunt Emily, all the way in Burnwood. Could you read for us The Process Begins?
I'd rather not read at the moment, if that's all right, please.
That's fine. No, it's all good. No one's ever forced to read, except for some people that I forced to read. But you don't never feel forced. It's all fine. Don't worry. Honestly, just thought maybe you want. Noemi now has put a video back on after I've just told Emily to read. It's okay. Ça va, Noemi. Ça va très bien. Okay. Carry on, Aunt Emily.
The process begins with three intellectual attributes of Chokhmah, Bina, and Das: conceptualization, comprehension, and internalization. The second stage of the process continues with three emotional attributes: Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes: expansion, control, and integration. The final Sefiros are the pragmatic attributes, the emotional process as it relates to action. These three final Sefiros are Netzach, Chod, and Yesod: victory, sublimation, and connection. The first Sephira, Chokhmah, translates the general desire for creation into a specific intellectual conception of the world. The final Sephira, Malchus, actually creates the world. The intermediary Sephiros represent the various stages of intellectual and emotional absorption of the concept of Chokhmah to the point that the actualization of Malchus is possible.
Okay, beautiful. And again, those who in the summer, I've got all the recordings from the summer. Those who ever want to do any catch up, I've got them all recorded. We talked quite a lot about this, Keser and Malchus. And Malchus is the feminine aspect at the end. It's that feminine aspect that brings it all together and births the actual result. and a final event, right? And that's why Shabbos, for example, is the feminine aspect of the week. It's that place where all the processes of the 6 days of work are birthed into an actual moment of complete and utter actualization of the real self. That's why when Hashem created the world, it took 6 days, and then the seventh day was the moment where everything kind of fits together. It was the actualization. Shabbos was actualization. Kind of funny if you think about it, because most of us think of Shabbos as like the day off. You know, it's a day to start lounge around. It's a lounge around sort of day, where it's not about. It's really almost like about a passive day where I don't do anything, which is true. But actually, in a deeper sense, it's the day of actualization. It's really where everything actualizes in the highest way. And one day we'll get to learn Shabbos in a more powerful. I mean, Shabbos really is. Unfortunately, we've been trained over the years, so many of us, to learn about the don'ts of Shabbos. It's all about the don'ts, what you can't do. You can't do this, you can't do that. You can't go here, you can't go there. You can't put your phone on, you can't put your telly on. You can't drive, and you can't this. So everyone like kind of has that. They kind of like the idea of Shabbos, but it's a lot of don'ts. But on a higher level, and I pine to be able one day to even taste this myself. There were moments when I lived in Eretz Yisrael, especially before I got married and had loads of kids, I was able to kind of tap into this a little bit. Nowadays, it's a lot about Friday nights, more nowadays about just separating the kids from, serious altercations around the Friday. Especially now, it's been nuts because of the past couple of months, you can imagine, they've been on top of each other. Cabin fever is at its like breaking point right now. So most Friday nights right now about like kind of just stopping fights happening. But when a person like knows what Shabbos really is, and you come into that moment of complete actualization, and as the Zohar and all the other sort of Kabbalistic Hasidic works talk about the idea of just entering a whole different dimension on Shabbos, of your mind, your body, and your soul. You're in a different dimension completely. And you're eating differently, and you're breathing differently, and you're speaking differently, and you're thinking differently, and you're acting differently. And it's not about the don'ts, it's about like what you're experiencing. I'm sure all of you in your own way, somewhere along your way in your lives, you've had a little taste of what that's like. So we're not even thinking about like what I can't do. It's rather about like, that's why Havdalah is sometimes like a mini painful experience. I had this last night. I'll share with you all. Like last night, Havdalah I sat with the family and I just said, it's not, they were like, come on. No, it wasn't like they were like, come on, hurry up. But they're like, hey, go make Havdalah now, come on. And I was like, come on, I said, it's not simple to make Havdalah. It's not a simple thing just to make Havdalah now. We can't just, hold the wine and very nice and hold the candle, but it's not simple just to say goodbye to that experience. It's only kind of when you're about to say goodbye to Shabbos, you start realizing that I don't want to say goodbye to this. I've loved having this period of time without my phone, without the buzzing, without the need to call or the need to I've loved actually these moments of just being present. I didn't want to make Havdalah last night, just sharing with you. I was actually quite happy just to stay in Shabbos mode.
Especially if you should out so early.
Yeah.
That so early in winter, it's like it goes in a flash.
Exactly. That's what 100%. That's why you have to really try and utilize the Friday nights in the winter. That's why. That's the beauty of Friday nights is that at the moment, like we try and get the kids to bed a bit early and sat and learned quiet. It's been nice to do that. But you're right. It's hard. Shabbos sometimes in the middle of winter, it's gone before it even began. Yeah. But it's the energy source. And anyway, sorry, I went on a mini rant there. But Shabbos is Malchus, it's the actualization. So everything comes together. Okay, so and this is what he says here very nicely. So he's not talking about Keser in this book. He kind of, it seems like he's really putting a lot of the Keser attribute into Chokhmah. It says, but by Chokhmah already, there's that general desire is already starting to like be kind of materialize, I suppose, into a specific intellectual concept. And now it's about unpacking the intellectual concept from Chokhmah down until finally Malchus is the actualization. This is how Hashem created the world. This is how Hashem creates the world every second, every millisecond. Through this process of Sefiros. Chokhmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. Every second it's happening this way. And just as it happens with him, it happens with you. So let's carry on. The Sefiros within ourselves. Carry on, Emily.
The Sephiros, just as the Sephiros are the tools through which God creates and relates to the world, so too our internal Sephiros are the means through which we interact with the world. The Sephiros are the system through which we become aware of our subconscious desires. Once we are aware of our desires, we can create goals and processes to bring them to fruition. What is the basis for this parallel, which is accepted as de facto throughout Hasidic teachings?
Okay, so yeah, so here I am going on about how, just it works in Hashem, it works in with you as well. So what's the basis of that? How do we know that's true? What's the proof for that? So carry on, Emily.
The primary source for this parallel is the universe.
Is the verse.
Oh, sorry.
You get carried away. It is the universe. It's the universe also.
Sorry, I'm not the best reader.
You're good. It's the verse. It's the verse.
Let us make man in our image and form. And the verse for man is made in the image of God.
Okay, is everyone familiar with these two very, very important psukim, very important verses? They are both from the Sedra, from the very first portion of the Torah, Bereshis. Okay, in that you have these two psukim. Na'aseh Adam bidmusenu kidmusenu, which means let us make man in our image and form. So therefore, this implies that humans are made essentially now it can't be. Hashem doesn't obviously have a body. He doesn't have a head, doesn't have a nose, and doesn't have arms, feet, etc. So when it talks about image and form, it obviously can't mean a physical image, right? And secondly, so we have to understand what that means. So secondly, it says Adam nivra b'tzelem, right? Which means that Hashem is created in the image of God. So we see very clearly, the Torah tells us that we are somehow, we said this last week, a microcosm, right? The universe, man is a micro universe. Now, if it's okay with everyone, should I ask Noémie, if she'd like to read, vous voulez lire pour nous, Noémie, ça c'est le page XXIV, which I believe in Roman means 14. Not, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's the paragraph that starts with Tanya explains the verse.
Yes. So,
Yeah, you with it? Yeah. So Tanya explains the verse.
yes, Tanya explains the verse. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Ça va très bien, merci.
Okay. Tanya explains the verse, and from my flesh I shall behold God, as it is known that this refers to understanding somewhat of his blessed divinity by reflecting on the soul which is vested in the flesh of man. From the soul, man is able to understand somewhat of the supernal Sefiros.
Supernal Sefiros. Okay, so in the Tanya, he says here, there is a pasuk, I believe, in Job, in the book of Job, which is Sari Echeze Eloka, which means from my flesh I can see Hashem, or I can behold Hashem through my flesh. So it says the Tanya, it is known, this refers to understanding somewhat of the divinity by reflecting on your soul. From your soul, which is vested in the flesh of man, from your soul, somehow by looking inside, we get a better understanding of what's happening outside. By looking at what's going on, right? So we see here already a link. Somehow what goes on inside of our souls is also what's going on in terms of the same structure that Hashem uses to create the entire universe, is the same structure which is being used to create and keep us alive and keep us going at all times. So this is the connecting point. This is the bridge between you and the universe, I suppose, when it comes to Sefiros. Do you want to carry on a little bit? Rav Shlomo Zalman. Again, for those who don't remember, Rav Shlomo Zalman Liadi is the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Baal HaTanya, the Alter Rebbe, many different ways of expressing. Oli Burns, is that right? Oli, just checking with Oli if I'm right or not. Am I right, Oli?
You know you are.
Okay, when are you going to come back on to read for us? And we want to see Jasmine as well. Carry on, Noémie.
So, as Nur Zalman relates the idea with the verse of Tehillim, my soul gives praise to Hashem. This explained in the Gemara, just as the Holy One fills the earth, so too does the soul fill the body. In the same manner that God gives vitality and reveals himself within the world through the Sefiros, so too does the soul of man extend its influence throughout the body via its soul's power, which reflect the Sefiros. The sages are stating that since the soul is a mirror to God, it inherently gives praise to him.
Okay, right. Since the soul is a mirror to Hashem, inherently gives praise to him because obviously it's a mirror. It naturally wants to give praise back to Hashem. But just importantly, I think you're getting it. I don't need to explain to you, but it's saying again that the whole process of your soul, the internal, I guess, technology, the drive. How do you call it? The iOS. Is that the word iOS? Gav, you help me with this. Internal operating system, iOS. It's a way of saying it, right? Your iOS is the Sefiros. It's not Raspberry Pi or what's another one? I remember once someone explained to me, I was in LA actually, I was on an LA trip and the guy was explaining to me about how Samsung, they make their internal systems, whatever, and they give it a name of a dessert each time, right? Everyone knows that? Yeah, people know this. Raspberry Pi is the current one and previous one was, I don't know, chocolate mousse, I don't know, face. But they always give a name of a dessert. So, but I guess Apple make it easy. They just call it iOS, whatever iOS they're up to, yeah? Your iOS, the iOS of your soul is called Sefiros. And by the way, that's why this whole book, the whole book is going to be saying about how all the maladies that we have, the things that are difficult and we're struggling with, are really rooted in elements of the Sefiros inside of us. There are certain Sefiros that are either not firing properly or we're not allowing to fire properly within our iOS. The iOS is somewhat damaged, and therefore, if we can work out which of those Sefiros is damaged through various things happening in our lives and work on fixing it, we healthier, spiritually healthy, and of course, when one's spiritually healthy, it has a knock-on effect to our physical health as well. There are those that have done scientific, I guess, scientific experiments to show that. I'm not sure. This isn't me trying to say to you that like the cure to all disease is necessarily through, because there are extreme people, and I want to make sure that people don't come away from this class saying Rabbi Dov said this. There are some extreme people that say that you don't have to go to doctors, you don't have to see doctors, you don't have to, right? Nowadays, it's understood. Rabbi Tatz talks about this quite a lot, that our hishtadlus, that which we have to do is when you're not well, you have to go see doctors, right? But there are those, and there have always been those people in history who've not done that. They've just done internal work. They've worked on themselves spiritually and healed themselves totally that way. Just to make you aware of it. I'm going to be very careful. I don't want people to it's like one of those legal cases, where someone sues me in the future, like Rabbi Dov taught us in a class not to see a doctor again. I'm not saying that, but there are those, and I happen to know a Mukubal, I mean, a great man who lives in Israel, who told me stories, and he's not lying. He's not lying, because he doesn't need to lie, and he didn't have to lie. He wasn't trying to impress me or anything, but he told me stories that he saw with his own eyes. A lady in Yerushalayim who was had serious cancer, they're impossible to stay alive. And this is 20 years ago or something. And they went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "There's nothing I can do. I'm sorry, it's beyond. There's nothing more I can do for you." And they came out happy, smiling, and he said to them, "Why are you smiling?" He said, "The doctor's given up, which means there's only one place we can put our hope in. That's Hashem. The doctors have told us there's no more hope, so that's great. So now it's only in Hashem's hands." And they obviously prayed and did what they had to do. And he said he saw her 15 years later, and she's still alive. And it was kind of medically impossible that she'd be alive. And he said he saw her with his own eyes. So it's an interesting thing to think about, that we know that somehow oftentimes spiritual maladies are the cause of physical maladies as well. Let's carry on. Yeah, so who's reading? I can't remember. Noemi, yeah. Oh, Noemi's disappeared. She has gone, she has run away. So Gav, you want to take it home a little bit for us? Because Ollie, I don't know if Ollie's in a place to read or not today. He's come to the class twice. But he's not. I don't know if he's reading for.
Yeah, I can read if you want me to.
And Noemi's back. I know if you do you want to read a bit more, or is that okay?
Yeah, I can read more. Yeah.
Yeah, in Yechezkel.
In Yechezkel, the prophet described the heavenly vision, and on the image of a throne there was an image that appeared as a man. This heavenly image of a man is understood in Kabbalistic teachings to represent the Sefiros. When God clothed himself in the Sefiros, he takes on the appearance of man, because man possesses parallel attributes.
Okay, so there's a heavenly vision in the prophet Ezekiel. All it's saying is there's an image of a man. It's just basically Hashem is putting his energies into the spheros, these step-down converters, and somehow there's like an image of man. What this really means is that you yourself are enclosed spheros to a certain extent. Read on in Divrei Yamim.
In Divrei Yamim, we find the verse, to you, Hashem, is Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Od, etc. All of the emotional spheros are referred to in this verse. The implication of all the powers that exist within a human being are a reflection of God's attributes.
All of the powers that exist within a human being are a reflection of God's attributes. Okay, so I mean, we're kind of laboring the point, but just to say it again, that means your soul powers, the spiritual powers that make you, that build you, that sustain you, that are you, that make you up, essentially are really, they are the technology. The iOS is called Sefiros, and the Sefiros themselves are in the same way that the Sefiros create the universe. Also, just the same way that the Sefiros are the iOS of the entire existence, the Sefiros are the iOS of you. Clear? It's pretty clear, I think, right, from that perspective. And he's given the sources to why that is. That's why we have to go through this. He's given you the Makor. He's not just said it, he's shown you where he's learned it from Yechezkel, from Divrei Yamim, and he's brought the Balatanya as well. The following table lists the 10 Sefiros and their definitions. Again, this is Rav Moshe Feder's definitions. But if you remember, Ollie, when we talked a lot about this, Ollie Burns, remember, and Emily too, we talked a lot about how we want to make it practical. So this is now already starting to use quite practical language. So if you see, there's 3 intellectual spheros, and then you have the 7 emotional spheros, of which the 7th he's saying is the expression Malchus. Normally Malchus is contained within what's called the 7 emotions, but the 3 intellectual ones are Chochmah, Bina, Das. By the way, oftentimes they're referred to as the parents. In the Tanya, it refers to Chochmah and Bina and Das as the parents. Just as the parents give birth to the children, so to the intellectual spheros give birth to the emotional spheros. So the 3 intellectual spheros, they refer to the intellect, the iOS of the intellect, are Chochmah, Bina, and Das. Chochmah is creative intellect. Okay, so that would be that burst of inspiration, that moment where the kind of an idea comes into your head, like where things get creative, you start to, kind of have ideas that kind of fly in from nowhere, and people feel very creative in the Chochmah side. Okay, that would probably relate to, I think they call left brain, if I'm not mistaken, right? Help me out here, someone who knows about the science. Left brain, right brain, which is the creative side? Left brain is creative, right? Yeah, the left brain, I believe. Left brain is the creative side, whereas then the right brain is Bina. That's defined intellect. That's already now when you have to break it down into parts. Bina, boneh, to build. Bonen means to look and to study and to contemplate. Bina is where you break it up into its parts and study and how's it going to be. Okay, that obviously relates to the other side of the brain. That's why there are 2 hemispheres of the brain. It's amazing. How cool is that? Isn't it amazing when you think about it? We're learning this, and we're saying there are 3 intellectual capacities. There's Chochmah, there's Bina, there's Das. When you take a look at a brain, and the brain has a right hemisphere, and has a left hemisphere, and has something called the corpus callosum, which is a little bit that kind of fires between the 2, connects the 2 together, which is the Das, the corpus callosum. Okay, and then of course you have the neck as well. Both this way and that way, you have Das, right? Both connecting Chochmah, Bina, and then down into the intellect, you have the neck as well. Yeah.
If anybody hasn't heard of this concept before, it's really there's that amazing example of the architect, isn't there? Like, yeah, the architect has the idea of the building, that he has to have all these stages, he has to know how to draw the plans, and he has to get the builders, and by the time the building's finished, it's worked its way through all the Sefirot.
Yeah, exactly. That's we use that analogy. I like the architect one, and I don't know why, I just really do love that whole theatre production one as well. I don't know why, that really came to me in a flash, and I feel it really also kind of puts it together as well. But on that point, by the way, talking about right brain, left brain, and corpus callosum, If any of you are interested, I will now put this in the chat. I'm sure you've seen this already, but just if you can, it's a TED Talk. Okay, if you who here just nod has seen Jill Bolt Taylor, A Stroke of Insight? Anyone seen that TED Talk? Nod your head. Great. Okay, it's called A Stroke of Insight, I believe, or my either My Stroke of Insight, or it's called Jill Bolt. I believe that's her name. Look it up. Okay, not now, obviously, because we've got another few minutes of the class. But Jill Bolt Taylor is this woman. She's got a TED Talk called A Stroke of Insight. Just watch it. It's so worth watching because she talks about how she was a brain scientist. She is a brain scientist, and she had a stroke, but only in one hemisphere of her brain, and she lost basically her right brain. Her right brain flooded with blood, so she lost her bina completely. So she only had the chokhmah, and she talks about how the whole world was just connected. It was all one. Everything was just flowing. She felt this euphoria almost of like a world where there was no differentiation. There was no blockage. There was everything just turned into. It was dangerous. You can't live like that, right? You need chokhmah and bina. You can't have one without the other. But she talks. Thank you, Amanda Rose. Brilliant. Yes. Yeah, I did well. I got the spelling right as well. I'm really impressed with myself. Okay, yeah. Don't look at it now, everyone. I know you're all excited. You'll go to it now. Watch it. I'll finish the class in a few minutes. You can do the last 5 minutes homework. You can watch it together, right? But she discusses there how she had that moment where she basically lost one of the sides of the brain. And this is amazing because you see, again, from my flesh I see God. Isn't that amazing? You've got two hemispheres of the brain. You're very easy to just have one brain. Why do you have to have two hemispheres? You know, evolutionary science, give me what you want, I don't care. But why does it have to be that you have a right brain and a left brain, which essentially are two completely separate parts? They're connected by one little thing called the corpus callosum. Why didn't they create just one big mass called the brain? Why do you have to have two? There you go, chokhmah bina. Chokhmah bina. Okay, fine, so chokhmah bina.
Just a question, you said bina was the right brain.
You know what? Again, I'm sorry. Look it up again here. Which one? You know what? I'll do as we're all here, as we're all friends. I'll do a quick one. So here's a right brain is.
I actually think there's a picture 2 pages down which shows on what you sent us.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. No, I know that, but I'm just thinking like there is. But I'm saying, but I'm just thinking here. I just want to see actual scientifically. It says here that right brain is responsible for cognitive functions. That's right. Yeah, that's bina. Very good. I was right. The right hemisphere relates to the bina, and the left hemisphere relates to the left brain relates to the what do you call it? Where are we?
Chokhmah.
Yeah. But the whole joke is the whole joke here, the left brain hemisphere is, no. Left brain hemisphere is needed for rational thinking and logical skills such as maths and language. Very good. Whereas right brain is not. It's about shapes and things like that. So yeah, so it actually works out perfectly. Right brain is chokhmah, left brain is right brain is chokhmah, left brain is bina.
Okay.
She lost that, so she must have lost the left brain. She lost the left side, left hemisphere, and lost the bina. Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
Watch it. It's cool. Again, I'm not. The whole joke is, of course, as you know, although you don't know, is that it comes out the other way around. So the right part of the brain really affects the left part of the body, and the left part of the brain affects the right part of the body. So it's all anyway interlinked, intermingled. It's just the main focus here is really the fact there's two hemispheres. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Just that's the thing to know. There's two hemispheres, and isn't that mad? Right. Next, 7 emotions. You've got so again, das, of course, means internalized intellect. Das is where everything becomes internalized. When we talk about das, we discussed this a long time, a lot what das means, right? In soul fitness classes, we've been discussing that whole last term. It's all about das. Das is coming up to the place of connection, of observation, of separation, of being able to like lift yourself up to like a higher level of existence and understanding. And das is when you really internalize something. You know, when it's really connected to it, you have like this chibur. That's why, of course, for Adam Yada, it's when we talk about the idea of biblical knowing, the first act of sexual union in the Torah is between Adam and Eve, which talks about das. Adam Yada, he knew her, because das is real, complete connection, right? That's the example that they use in Hasidus is of like the difference you would get if something's happening to you or something's happening to your friend. So the example they used is a very nice analogy they use in Chabad about how there's a guy from the like a kafri, a villager who gets a telegram and he can't read, right? So first of all, he gives it to his teacher or gives it to his friend who can read, and the guy reads it first, and it basically says your father has died. So this was a message to the farmer, right? Your father has died. So he reads it to himself, your father has died, and he says to the guy, the news here says your father has died, and that farmer falls on the floor and collapses in shock. They said to the question, so you read some really bad news, why did you not get affected in the same way? Why did you not get upset when you read the telegram, the first guy? You read a telegram that said your father has died. Yeah, it wasn't your father, but still was sad news. Why weren't you upset? Why didn't you also start shaking and sad? You told the farmer whose father had died and he fell on the floor. You, nothing. The answer is because it wasn't his father. If it was his father, he would react in a different way. Same idea. It says das. Das is when it's like your father, when it's so close to you, when it's so connected to you. You can't help but be moved. Your whole world is different when you live in a state of das, when you live in a state of connection, when you live in a state of higher understanding. So that's when you internalize something. So that's das. Carry on. 7 emotions. Chesed is expansive emotion. Gvura is channeled emotion, right? You kind of, you're no longer expanse, you kind of channel it, narrow it down to where it needs to get to. Whereas Tiferes is harmonized. We talk about this a lot, the idea of harmonization. Finally, then the lower emotions, as opposed to being a connection within, are now an outward facing emotion. So there's the idea of winning vis-a-vis others, sublimating vis-a-vis others, and connecting vis-a-vis others. Okay, the first 3 chesed gvura tiferes are vis-a-vis yourself, whereas netzach hod yesod are vis-a-vis others, winning, sublimating, connecting, and finally malchus is. It's still considered one of the emotions, but really it steps out of the kind of system, and it's the actualization where everything comes into its original tanug and ratzon, the will and desire, comes into fruition into a state of malchus. Wow. Okay, so we have here, and then if you take a look, if you want, you've got the map of the body. Shows there again, right brain, left brain, das, ruach chesed first, how it relates to the body. Sienna would love this picture. It's like quite a Sienna kind of picture, right? In Kabbalistic tradition, the 10 spheres are represented within the human body. 3 intellectual spheres are represented by the head. The upper emotional spheres are represented by the midsection, and the lower emotional spheres are represented by the lower body. Malchus is represented by either the mouth or the feet to indicate its function of expression and actualization. Okay, so everything kind of comes together within the body. What this book is going to be, I'm going to stop here. But what this book is going to be talking about essentially is going through maladies that we have, things that are difficult in our lives, the things that we stumble with, the struggling with, the finding difficult. And he's basically going to try and hone in and show you where that might be a problem for you. Maybe it's an issue in your Tiferes, maybe it's an issue in your Netzach, maybe it's an issue in your Hod. Already some of you might be starting to think about certain midos that you feel that you connect to more. Like Hashem created in a way, it's like a graphic equalizer. Everyone is configured in different ways. Some are more chesed, some are more tiferes, some are more gvura, some are more netzach, some are more hod, some are more yesod, some are malchus. Everyone's like kind of configured in a different way, right? And the same thing in the intellect. Some are more chokhmah, some are more bina, right? You get the 2 different types. Some people are very bina, very rational, has to be rational, right? Some are more chokhmah, they're more creative, more artistic. It's about balancing and harmonizing. And when that happens, when the whole iOS is working perfectly, then like you kind of live a system, a world of synthesis. You want your whole kind of, you don't lose yourself, your own personal. Hashem's given you your own personal kind of. You're designed in a way that you have your own personality, which expresses itself in all different ways. Not saying that we have to be like robots, we're all the same, but the idea is that everything should be balanced, everything should be kind of working properly together in the system. Okay, gang, that's fun. Hope that was good. That was good today, right?
Yeah.
I think it's good to be able to go through these again. These are very tough concepts, but to be able to kind of make it in a very practical way that we can start seeing it in our lives, I think it's like really good. You know, and by the way, you start seeing how, and this is what I really want us to do together, like how it plays out in like the Chagim, and how it plays out in the mitzvot, and how it plays out, you know, it's about, you know, when you start putting it into mitzvah practice, you know, you'll start seeing how, you know, certain Chagim, Pesach is Chesed, you know, the Shavuos is Gvura. You know, you start seeing how, and once you start getting used to these terms, you say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. You know, that makes sense to me. Certain mitzvahs that we do are also connected to different spheres. Anyway, I know I'm meandering. It's been fantastic to see you all. Thank you for joining. Two quick things. What do you call it? Yeah, so I did this like kind of gratitude meditation on Wednesday, and hopefully Gav is going to put it to some. Gav kindly just told me now that he's going to put some really cool music and Gav, you're amazing. You really are. Hi, Gav. Close to Lord Gav. Gav's the one that puts all the meditations. He edits them and then puts the music to them. So I really appreciate that, Gav. You're an absolute gent. Yeah, he's putting his video off now. He's such a Tzaddik. Okay, so Gav, if you could put that gratitude, because some of you unfortunately missed the class on Wednesday night where we did the gratitude meditation. So I'm going to hopefully get it out to you, and please enjoy it. I think you'll like it. And then yeah. If you're interested in this Tu B'Shvat thing, please let me know. Serena, Chloe, if you're interested in doing this Tu B'Shvat thing, normally you weren't here, but not this Wednesday, Wednesday after is Tu B'Shvat. We can't get together, but I think it'd be really fun if people sign up. They'll pay like a nominal fee, however much it costs for the fruit and the delivery, maybe £10 to get you the fruits and the delivery to your house. Then you have a little box, and then we'll do like an online Tu B'Shvat Seder, where we'll talk about the fruits and what they are, and then you have the box in front of you. What is? If you're up for it, and you want to help me maybe with it, please let me know, because I could do with some help. That'd be great. Gav, you'll get to do a Tu B'Shvat Seder from South London, from Barnes, okay? So keep that Wednesday night free, Gav, or I'll come and I'll have to do something. Chevra, it's great to see you. You're amazing. Watch the Jill Bolt Taylor. Tell me what you think. Use the WhatsApp group to share and talk about what's going on. I love it, okay? And if you know anyone who wants to join, this has been recorded so they can jump in from last week and this week. You're amazing, everyone. Thank you. Have a Shavua Tov.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi. Bye.
Bye-bye. Look at this. You've got some more things. Thank you, Amanda. Great. Oh, fantastic. I'll look at this now. I'm gonna cut and paste these. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you, and thanks, Gav, for doing the backing to the meditations. Oh, he's gone. Okay.
Emily, did you listen to the other thing I sent you? That little kind of thing when it's all over.
I listened to it a bit just to check, because you said, does it work? But I haven't listened to it properly.
Can you listen? Tell me what you think, because I made this little kind of mini meditation called "When It's Over." Like it's like a little visualization.
Okay.
You might like it. I don't know.
And I liked this class. I think now that we've had the whole summer, I don't know if Ollie will agree, of going through each concept. Like when you said it, it all came back to me.
Yeah.
It is quite a lot when you're learning 10 concepts at once to differentiate each one, but they're finally like crystallizing in my mind. So
there you go. Exactly. I feel the same way. It's very true. Amazing. Fantastic.
Have
Great.
a good week.
Bye, everyone. Happy. See you Wednesday night.
Bye.
Emily, can I ask you a very good question?
Oh, I'll help with the thing, by the way. I'm happy to help. So.
Brilliant. I really appreciate it. Can I ask you, I originally said that I would do this next round of soul fitnesses at 8 p.m. but it's actually working out that it would still be easier if we did it at 9 p.m. Does it make a difference to you?
It doesn't make a difference to me. I'm a night owl.
Do you think most people like 9 p.m. is okay? Because I feel like it's that point in time where you kind of have a break.
Fine. Like, ask other people. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm not doing anything anyway in the evenings. So
okay, cool.
I think during lockdown, no one's got any plans. So it doesn't really matter.
Amazing. All right. Thanks so much, Emily. Really appreciate it. All the best. Bye. Bye, Ollie.
Bye.
Bye, Ollie. Bye, everyone. Bye.